welcome back. Youth Justice Network is a not-for-profit organization. It's aiming to break the cycles of incarceration and build an equitable justice system by providing young people with individualized advocacy, mentorship, and opportunities to grow, thrive, and lead. The organization was rooted in collaboration between educators, social service staff, and community advocates who wanted to address recidivism rates, untapped potential, as well as disproportionate minority representation among the thousands of adolescents who attended high school on Rikers Island. Joining me now and sharing a little bit more about this, I'm joined by the Friends to Fathers case manager at Youth Justice Network, the Reverend Bernard Shepard. And Reverend Shepard, good to have you.
Thank you. My pleasure being here.
And so when we talk about youth justice, Rikers Island, we know the story, we know the history, but you're pretty passionate about making sure that youth have some accessibility and also some resources during a critical time in their life.
Mm-hmm. Yes. One of the things that's very important to us is understanding that our youth feel an overwhelming sense of abandonment at times. The system has continuously failed them on multiple levels. And so what we try to do is establish a level of trust. All things work better in this field that we're trying to do with time, resources, and trust. And that's one of the things that we attempt to do in the community, but more especially in confinement, because the role of our jails is incarceration, not really rehabilitation. And so our young people are there and they are locked in. And when we join them, we are not locked in, but we are locked up with them. And we try to establish a medium of understanding with them.
If people don't know about the Youth Justice Network, introduce us to your organization because I'll be honest, I didn't know about you guys.
Well, the Youth Justice Network has actually been around. The name used to be Friends of Island Academy. It was founded on the school floor of Rikers Island when it was back in the 1980s. This organization has been there throughout all of that time in one capacity or another. Most recently, about 2014, we got a contract with the Department of Corrections, and we were there literally 5 days a week. My capacity was a coordinator at the Rose M. Singer Center, and I worked in the evenings in development programs with Friends of Island Academy at that time. Now it's the Youth Justice Network. And it's the same work: build trust, establish a process of helping our young people understand that there are alternatives. A lot of times, our young people have not become hopeless. Many times, it's just a matter of them having given up hope. And hope is a very rare and precious commodity when you're trying to get people to look within and find their true selves. And Youth Justice Network, Friends of Island Academy, has been neck deep in that work for a very long time.
Yeah. When we talk about incarceration, we know the school to prison pipeline, that's very real. We
Yes.
know that young people are going down the road of incarceration at record rates, and some at their own doing, a lot very questionable. How do we get to the place of actually reducing incarceration? And I'll give you, and you can use your organization as an example.
Honestly, that's a very good question. And I sincerely tell you that when we say, how do we get them to? We get them to the point through long-term involvement with these young people, inside and outside, helping them understand that the work is up to them. A lot of times we're working against mores and standards that may seem strange to many of us. And it is imperative that we understand these human lives really need to have their focus change. We can't change anyone's focus. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a miracle work that we do. What I am suggesting is that through trust, developing trust, letting them know that we're not going to turn our backs on, and letting them know that we do believe and will work with them to change certain dynamics in their own lives. When we work with a young person, we have them for a moment. When they go back to their communities, then their real world kicks in. And it's so in helping them understand that we are a pipeline and helping these young people know that they can call us and find out that someone is going to talk to them and help talk them off their ledge, whatever that ledge may be. I think that has a good way of, or a good opportunity for us to let them know that they're not alone. And a lot of times, many young people just feel that they're very much alone and they have no alternatives to lifestyles that they have.
We're seeing numbers, and as I said, record numbers of disproportionate young people being jailed within our criminal justice system, and particularly in New York City jails. Give us a little bit about your insight as to what you're seeing from your perspective.
Well, that has changed over the years. When we had search and frisk and some of the other dubious law enforcement methods in place, the jails really swelled up. A lot of our children were there for just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, guilty by association. This goes back to even the days many decades ago where men were walking in the roads in South Carolina, where I'm from, and picked up and taken to incarceration facilities, or what we commonly known as chain gangs, simply because they were who they were. I've seen, and I'm sure you have too, our young people on the streets, say 7, 8, 10 years ago, just being arrested, incarcerated, pat down, and being in a group where maybe one person was doing something and several other people got incarcerated with them. I'm very careful about using the phrase, the justice system. I've often found it to be a system of injustice. And I'm mindful that, yes, some of our young people have committed some crimes. I get that. Historically, any impoverished community usually has higher crime rates than the general norm. But I do believe that some of the measures that have been taken to incarcerate our young people have been done without proper judgment. And our young people needed to understand how to navigate the streets, how to navigate their communities so that they don't run foul of that system.
We look at what's going on right now, how we can help them in a system that's really designed to fail them. Mm-hmm. We think about the criminal justice system, it's cyclical, mm-hmm. And we're trying to break recidivism rates.
Absolutely.
Once a person enters in, you hope that they don't come back out. I mean, yes. They come back out, but don't come back in. And one of those things that I know that we talk about is making sure that they have examples. Mm-hmm. I've often talked to people about exposure. I was just having a conversation about family last week about how do we help people? And I've said exposure. And one of the things about exposure is when you have exposure and mentorship, it makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely.
I know that you guys engage in mentorship as well.
Yes.
And in the words of Dr. Phil, how's that working for you?
I think the mentorship component through our Arches program, through our youth advocacy programs, through Friends to Fathers is phenomenal. What young people are looking for, and even some of our older people, is a lifeline. Mentorship serves as not so much a big brother or big sister, but we need to have elders in our communities to help guide our young people into a better path of walking, of thinking, of taking action or inaction. A lot of our kids are responding instead of thinking through. Mentorship provides that moment of reason where many of our young people will call and say about or talk about a situation that's really causing them some discomfort or action. And our mentors, I commend them all. They go out, they meet these young people in the street. They'll talk to them. We've had youth advocates that have become godmothers to some of our people's children and become foster uncles in the same way. It's about relationships. It's about helping people understand that they're not alone. I go back to that because many of our young people feel a profound sense of abandonment. And many of them come from situations where they don't have that arm or that ear to speak into to give them sound feedback. And I think that's very important. It does work. It requires time, it requires resources, it requires focus and intent, but with perseverance and not letting go, we do manage to help wherever we can.
Yeah. And when we talk about helping, we got to help our young people. And when we talk about our young people, you got to talk about our young ladies, because we're finding more and more young ladies finding themselves in the criminal justice system, I think more now than ever before. Talk to us about the work that's being done with helping young ladies out.
That is such a multi-tiered discussion. Our young women, as I found out when I went to Rosie's, the Rose M. Singer Center, to function as the coordinator. It's a story that you really don't understand, the brokenness, the level of hopelessness that many of our young women feel. I've seen things that have actually brought me to tears working with these young women. I have a young lady that I met at Rose M. Singer Center when she was 16. And yesterday she was still calling me for help. And she's 26. And the help never stops. Our young women find themselves broken on multiple levels, especially in jail. And as bad as the situation is for our young men, our young women find multiple levels of degradation in the jail system. They find themselves being not only subjugated to tiered levels of abuse, but even to the extent that if you have a program at a men's jail, everyone shows up. The relatives, whomever they invite, will show up for. When you have the same kind of event at a woman's jail, say Rosie's, my experience was that no one showed up. No one from the community came. That seems so foreign and unreasonable, but I would have to invite other members of their cell block to come and celebrate their accomplishments so that they would have someone rooting for them. And this is not an isolated incident. I've had young women who have been walking the streets, and we've been working with them and helping them learn and get parenting classes. And the despair, the level of despair has been so intense. I've had some of these same young women say, listen, I appreciate everything you've done for me, but I'm just not any good. I'm broken that way. This is who I am, and I'm going to stay that way. And so finding that avenue where you can help a young woman understand her worth, it really comes down to that. A lot of our young women are caught into the cycle of incarceration simply because they really see no way out. We've had young women commit crimes during the colder months just so they can come in and get medical care and know that they're going to be in a warmer environment and get medical care and steady meals. I've seen it all play out. I think anyone who has been in the system as long as I have and have seen these things understands that in the community and in our jail systems, our young women are in a desperate state of need, psychologically, emotionally, provisionally, and in the community as well. They just need more, and they need more intensive focus. And being a father of two daughters and now two granddaughters, I can tell you that it really does impact me in ways that I never thought I would be impacted, because I simply didn't know the level of their plight until I actually experienced it.
As we get ready to go, I want to make sure I get an opportunity for you just to also share a little bit about Friends to Fathers.
Phenomenal organization. I'm very happy, having worked with the women so long. I'm very happy and pleased and excited about working with Friends to Fathers. They offer workshops, parenting skills, financial literacy, career development, and classes for domestic battery and batterers accountability. And the types of counseling we do are peer support, anger management, parenting, and individual counseling. We have bi-weekly sessions, and personally, I think it's one of the more rewarding things I've done. Now, these men are mandated to come, but the point is they do come. Mandated doesn't mean they don't have choices. A lot of the men we work with genuinely care about becoming better fathers, better parenting co-parents, better husbands, and they really come and shed a lot of weight in the Friends to Fathers organization. And I find it a very rewarding experience to work with them.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us about your organization, doing some great work. And certainly we want to applaud you and thank you so much for being with us here on the Social Justice Forums. And as we said, incarceration is a real big issue, particularly in communities of color. But we're glad to have organizations such as yours that are really standing in the gap. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All righty. We want you to stay with us. Guess what? We've got a little bit more show. Don't go anywhere. We're coming back in a few seconds.